to do a quick walkthrough of the operation of the programmer. This particular programmer is an H&S Minimax. H&S has been out of business for a few years, I believe, but there's plenty of H&S Minimaxes. Where does he think he's going? Plenty of H&S Minimaxes on the market still. Of course, there's no support, and if it breaks or something else like that malfunctions, then you're on your own. But the price was right, and it works fantastic. So let's start it up, or let's power it up, and we'll go through it. There's a little splash screen. There we go. All right. With no modifications, you can use this piece of equipment. Basically what it does is connects to the OBD2 port, the same port that they use to do vehicle inspections with. And it basically talks to the truck's ECM and can be used as basically electronic gauges. So when I first got this was the first piece of equipment I put in before I did any modifications to the vehicle. I wanted to make sure that this, which was going to be doing all the brain work for the truck, was going to work the way it was advertised before I took anything off the vehicle. I just figured, let's get this talking to the computer first before I modify anything else, in case all of a sudden I take off the exhaust and all sorts of check engine lights pop up and I can't tell if it's something else or if it's this not working right. So anyways, here we go. This is the H&S Minimax. Here you see the gauges that I have set up. I did not want to reproduce any gauges that I had that are analog. These being the analog gauges here up top and then down here. I don't want to reproduce any of that. It's wasted space. So I tried to fill these gauges up with useful gauges that I would try to recall when I'm towing my fifth wheel. We do like to tow a lot in northern New England, and when you start getting into the Green Mountains of Vermont or the White Mountains, you're doing some pretty good steep grades, and it'd be really nice to know. This one is the boost. It's basically telling me how much boost my turbo is producing. The next one is my pyrometer. It's sensing my EGTs coming out of the engine, out of the exhaust gas temperatures. If this gets too high, you can start to do pretty heavy damage to the truck. People who have modified their engines, they can really start to cook the top of the cylinders if the temperatures get too high. I haven't made any modifications to the motor that I believe would bring me anywhere near a high enough exhaust temperature to cause any damage. So, but it's always good to know. Always good to know if I need to back down or I need to ease off the throttle if I'm towing up a mountainside or whatever. I don't know. But there's your pyrometer gauge, and I'll show you where that hooks up later on. And the transmission temperature. These are all, or at least the transmission temperature, I can get that through the EVIC, the screen here. But you have to start digging through menus while driving, and I figured that would be great to have just displayed automatically right here. There's a bunch of other things you can change these gauges to, and it's really simple to do. You can go through the list here. So for instance, my top gauge button is set up for RPM. I can go through here and change these out pretty easily. Some of these again are like for instance the coolant temperature, that's already displayed. I already got a temperature gauge up there. But intake, the intake air temperature, the pressure, battery voltage, I'm not sure what that is. Transmission temperature, I do have that one. I think that's pretty good to know. What percentage of the vehicle is, or what percentage of the engine is under load. This was interesting. The estimated torque. Interesting to see how much of the 850 pounds of torque you're actually producing at the wheels, at least estimated. Line pressure is the how much of the hydraulic pressure is. I'm pretty sure that's how much hydraulic pressure is being used for the clutch. So let me go back up to RPM. Even though I have a tachometer, I think it was just one that I just hadn't used this one. I hadn't changed it. This is what it came with. As far as with, yeah, that was the top gauge. I can't speak. And that's really helpful for making videos. Anyways, so basically after I made my modifications to the emissions control equipment, I'm not going to go into it because I'll have to back it out. I'll have to shut it off to back out. But basically went into an install download, and there was a program in here that basically tells the ECM in the truck not to look for certain items. And because those items without this would start throwing service engine soon lights, or what do you want to call it, check engine, and the power would be derated, and next thing you know I have to be towed someplace. So without this, my modifications would bring the truck to a crawl. This tells the truck's ECM, don't look for them anymore. Everything is okay. Wink, wink. So that's my gauge, and I got the A-pillar pod so that I can. I don't like wires. I don't like suction cup mounts. As you can see, I don't do half-ass mounts very much. I like to have everything solid. I like to have things neat and clean. So the A-pillar pod is exactly my cup of tea here. I can still disconnect this. I can take it out if I want to. You know, if I'm in a high crime area and I feel like it's going to get broken into, because it is right next to the window, so it is plain sight, and it almost looks like a GPS. So I don't want anybody to rip it off. So I can take this out if I want. Slides right off. Real simple. So that's my Mini-Max, my H&S Mini-Max. I really wish they were still in business, but I know there's places out there that I can get updates and get into transmission tuning and things like that. And I'm very interested in the transmission tuning. I guess what the transmission tuning does is it will change the points at which the torque converter will lock up. So right now it seems like torque converter locks up in 4th, 5th, and 6th. I can change that, I believe, to lock up in 3rd and sooner in 4th, 5th, and 6th than what it normally does. Now when I hit my tow haul mode button, that changes it automatically. That's information that's built into the truck, and that locks up the torque converter earlier and holds the gears longer. So the engine's not lugging around as I'm towing a trailer. So it really winds out the gears, and that works great with the exhaust brake. That exhaust brake is almost useless without being in the tow haul mode, because the torque converter is not going to lock up. So this engine brake is more aggressive than the 48,000-pound fire truck that I drive. It's incredible. I think it offers like 230 horsepower of braking, 230 horsepower of braking power through the exhaust brake. So towing a fifth wheel camper, I can basically pull off an exit ramp and tap the brakes. I tap the brake to get it to downshift once, kind of wind through the gear, tap the brake again. Basically, I can walk the truck down to 20 miles an hour with very little brake usage. And then after 20 miles an hour, if you can't control the load at that point, then you get issues. I get issues. Anyway, so that's the H&S Mini-Max. Right, so I did this video earlier and it was very loud, so I figured I'd do it over again. I was cleaning this up, and I used a solvent cleaner. It was all covered in soot and some other garbage that the dealership had dumped all over it, and I think I actually might have taken off some sort of protective coating, so I got to keep an eye on that, because it was coming off almost like it was like rubber cement, so I got to watch that. But it looks really clean. Anyways, first thing I did was get rid of this. This was the throttle plate. It's like a butterfly valve, and when the EGR valve would open and start taking in exhaust, it would close off this butterfly plate. So basically it was closing off any source of fresh air, fresh filtered air, and sucking in the exhaust, which is mind-boggling to me, but I understand they're trying to get some of the pollutants down and reburn them, but sucking soot into a $7,000 motor just doesn't seem right to me. Something about putting, you know, a brace of ash into a motor just doesn't seem normal. So anyways, we got rid of that, and I sprayed the plugs with some battery terminal protector so they won't corrode. And that's where the EGR valve was. Then there was a crossover tube that comes over here, and this is where the EGR cooler was. And the EGR cooler takes exhaust gas right out of the manifold, and would basically, there was another valve up here that would let it come through the manifold and across through that cross tube. And inside that EGR cooler, antifreeze, which would get pumped into that to help cool some of the high gas temperatures before it was sent into the air intake. Because obviously these engines, or I think any engine, likes to run on cold air. The cooler the better. It makes more horsepower from what I hear. So they would run the exhaust gases through almost like a radiator, and then into the air intake. So anyways, with that missing is a block-off plate here, and there's another one in the back. You can see it right in there. Get my finger out of there. And that's where you can see my Pyro EGT probe. Anyway, so now with the EGR cooler gone, the antifreeze that was, or the coolant that was coming through the engine block, basically has to be rerouted because it's not running through the cooler anymore. So it's basically just making a continuous loop the exact direction it was going anyways. So that's taken care of. And then these, the plate that it comes with, this new plate down here that everything is mounted to, holds everything, holds the bypass, and you mount your transmission fluid dipstick to that. So everything's good and solid. Really opens up so much more room for activities under here. It's just it's opened up, and it's a little bit easier to get to stuff. I was kind of hoping it would open up some spot to get to my where is it, my fuel oil filter, but that's hidden down there. So I still have to get to it through here, and then come on, focus. There it is. There we go. That's the fuel oil filter. So I can loosen it from there, and then I have to reach up under the frame and pull it down. Anyways, moving on. Where are we? There we go. Alright, so that's the downpipe. There was a catalytic converter up there. That's gone. And then there was a what is it called? DOC? I forget what it stands for now. Anyways, it's gone. And then the DPF filter was about here, and it too is gone. And then that goes to the OEM muffler, which is almost useless. It doesn't really muffle anything, but I'm afraid to see what it would sound like without the muffler. I do have to spray these connections. I can see there's salt on them already, and I want to take care of that. So I'm glad I was actually filming this to see that. Anyways. And then it's all the stock size, 4-inch muffler. A lot of guys go 4-inch to 5-inch or even bigger. I didn't think it was necessary, and I've seen a bunch of people say that you want about 1 inch per every 100 horse, and with the truck being just under 400 horses stock, I went with 4-inch with the 4-inch that it came with. So no need to reinvent the wheel. Let me go start it up here. Max power up. There we go. See the RPM. Exhaust. Come on, focus. Focus. There we go. The pyro's starting to warm up, sensing the exhaust and the transmission temperature. That's going to take a while to come on. I noticed it takes forever to get the truck to warm up now that all that back pressure is missing. And I'll do another quick video on what the filters look like. But with all that back pressure missing, it takes the motor a good 15 miles of highway driving to even reach its operating temperature. So I leave work, and there's probably about 3 or 4, anyway, maybe 3 to 5 miles of stop and go, and then probably about another 10 miles of highway before the thermostat is even close to being opened up. So it takes forever to get heat in the truck. So you can see just how much easier the truck is working. It's not having to push through all that honeycomb soot collecting garbage. You already seen the front. I'll just take you around back to the back again. And I'll tell you, it smells just like a truck. I get on it on the highway, I don't see any black soot coming on. I'm not into that garbage. I'm not into rolling coal like some of these. I think it's just stupid. I think it's wasted unburnt fuel, and you're just wasting your money. It's funny, on the video it looks like it's wobbling. It's vibrating, but it's not wobbling like that. So if you see the exhaust, and it looks like it's wobbling, I can assure you that it's not getting ready to fall off. It's just the camera trying to steady it. Anyway, I'm not into rolling coal and all that garbage like the guys say, but it does smell like a truck again. It does smell like a diesel burning truck like they used to. And as long as I'm not putting out black garbage, then I'm alright with it. There's a huge lawsuit going on right now, a class action lawsuit with Chrysler Fiat because of all the massive repairs that people have had to do to these filters. So I've already replaced the DPF filter once, and they're not cheap. They are not cheap. So a lot of people have gone through repairs of these things because they're regenning too often, and they're regenning too often, and they're getting worn out because of excessive regens. And I went through that like crazy. I got a stack of repair bills. But anyways, there's a huge study going on where these were regenning so often that any gains of pollution control were quickly how do you say it? I guess the gains were lost because it would regen, and it would use more fuel to regen. So if you're burning more fuel, and burning more fuel dilutes your oil, then you're going through more oil changes than you should, and it's producing terrible emissions while it's doing the regen. What are you gaining other than bringing me to the dealership every year for a repair? So the only time my truck went to the dealership was for exhaust system repairs, and it's never been there, knock on wood, for anything else, and will never ever, hopefully. But I know that's wishful thinking, but I can tell you one thing, it'll never be at the dealership again for emissions garbage. But anyways, that's it. That's my girl. That's my 2012 2500. See you later. Goodbye. Okay, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about was I get asked a lot, all the guys at work, They want to know, have I seen any fuel mileage gains since I've removed all the emissions equipment? Because the guys at work, they all saw all the filters and how tight these little honeycomb DPF filters, the catalytic converter, and you can just see that it's such a huge reduction of, I mean, such a huge creator of back pressure and just a reduction of breathability, if that's a word. So they wanted to know if I've seen any gains, and I have. Okay, so during the winter, my fuel mileage would drop about 5 miles per gallon. Where I live in the Northeast, they have winter blend fuels. I don't know if that's everywhere, but in the Northeast, they have a winter blend. News to me. I didn't know that until I bought this truck, because it was one of the first things I went to the dealership with. I said, why is it whenever this truck gets cold, does my fuel mileage drop? And 5 miles to a gallon, it's pretty substantial, I thought. So anyways, I would normally get 25, 30 miles to an hour going down the highway during the summer. That's with all the emissions equipment on the truck. I never had a complaint about this truck in fuel mileage unless it was doing a regen or during the winter. Winter and regenning killed the fuel mileage in the truck. Regenning, I understand. I understand how that works and why it tanks the mileage. I get it. Winter, I didn't understand why it would drop 5 miles to a gallon. Anyways, fast forward, regen equipment's gone. My winter fuel that I'm running now, I'm back up to my summer fuel rates as far as miles per gallon. I'm back up to running winter fuel, but I'm getting the 25 to the 30 miles to a gallon on a straightaway going down the highway at 63 miles an hour. My days of flying down the highway are pretty much over. This truck is a speeding ticket waiting to happen. And I knew that from the first day I got in it when I hopped on the highway, and it was so smooth running and such a smooth shifter. I looked down at the speedometer and I'm doing over 100 miles an hour. So I said, cruise control, you're going to be my friend, because I'm going to get a speeding ticket and I'm going to be broke by the time I learn my lesson. So 63 miles an hour, this truck seems to be best on fuel. Straight away I'm getting 25, 30 miles to a gallon, depending on if the wind is to my backside or I'm going into it headstrong. So that's it. So fuel mileage gains, winter fuel, where I would normally get 20, 25 miles to a gallon, I'm getting back up to 25, 30 miles an hour, miles per gallon. So I'm interested to see what it's going to be like when this truck is back into summer fuel and running hot like it's supposed to. And I'm really interested. We're supposed to be taking a road trip to South Carolina here soon, and it's already nice and warm down there, so I can't wait. But I'm really looking forward to that, and because the last time we took a trip down there, I had emissions garbage, and it was running terribly. I had check engine lights coming on because the DPF was getting too hot, and the dealership didn't want to do anything about it. It's normal. So I'm just so glad it's gone, and I can't wait to see what the fuel mileage is going to be like. I'll have to do an update on that when I get down there, see what the averages come up to. I'd be happy if I never see a regen again and I still get as far as an average between my city driving and highway travel. If I can just get it up to like 17, 18 miles per gallon as far as the average goes. If not, it is what it is. What I do know is it will never regen again, and that's fine by me. So my oil changes, which should have been every 7,500 miles, we're always down to like 3,000, 3,500 miles, because the regen was diluting the oil, dumping more fuel into, I think it's the exhaust stroke of the engine. It was diluting my oil, and the truck's computer would tell me it was time to change the oil at 3,000 to 3,500 miles. So I'm looking forward to not having to do an oil change on the thing, which seems like every couple of months. I'm ready to see how long I can stretch the oil change out to, and go from there. Truck's running great. I couldn't be any happier. It sounds like a truck. Interested to see what it's going to be like. My wife doesn't, she gets a headache easily. Don't they all? But she gets a headache easily, and she gets killer migraines And sometimes during the higher RPMs, there's a drone inside the truck that just, it goes right through your skull. So we do tow a fifth wheel. I might have said that like 20 times already. And if the truck has to downshift, like if we go into the Green Mountains or the White Mountains, and we start doing a climb and it does a downshift, her head's gonna pop. So, but that's with the stock muffler on. Obviously, the stock muffler was designed to work in conjunction with the catalytic converter and the DPF, so that's muffling right there. So now that none of that is there, the stock muffler is not quite capable of muffling anymore. But it's on, and I'm afraid to see what it would sound like without it. With the exhaust brake on, it's pretty loud. It sounds like a jet engine getting ready to take off in the driveway. So I try not to run it early in the morning because it would wake up the neighborhood. Throttle response, truck feels great. It's far more sensitive on the throttle than it ever has been. It just breathes better. All that garbage is not, blocking up its tailpipe. So you hit the throttle, and all that exhaust it has some place to go. Anyway, so that's about that. Loving it so far. Worth every penny. And I pray the good Lord to watch over my truck because I'm about at wit's end. I love this truck. I always have. My family loves it. We go everywhere in it. We go on long road trips. I can't say enough about this 2012 2500. The only time it's been in the dealership was for emissions garbage. So it's been an extremely reliable truck. The frame's barely got rust on it. It's a New England truck. It's got salt and sand peppering it up and down the highways. I've had some issues with the LEDs on the mirrors, the turn signals and the puddle lights. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I've replaced a couple. I haven't done the turn signal yet. There's 4 LEDs per turn signal in the mirror, and 2 of them are out, and there are 2 of them are out on each mirror. So they still blink. They're just not as bright. Kind of like me. But it is what it is. I'm not going to replace them until they're completely gone. Other than that, it's a great truck. We love it. I had to move the camera here. Look. Go to the light. Go to the light. The sun's setting. Go to the light. Oh, you're dying. Anyway. Random thoughts. Anyways, we love the truck. Yep. ST package. Whoop whoop. I don't know what to tell you. We enjoy the truck. I do. I've put over 2,000 pounds in the bed. Doesn't even come close to leveling it out. Our camper's not a huge fifth wheel. It's about 30 feet long. It probably weighs 8,000 pounds empty. It's not that big of a deal. Truck tows it like it's a toy. So that's what we got it for. We knew we were going to have a fifth wheel camper. We knew we were going to have a house and put all sorts of rocks and mulch and you name it into the bed. Tons of pellets for our pellet stove. We knew we were going to use it. So it's, I don't tow with it constantly, but it certainly doesn't get used as a car. It gets used as a pickup truck the way it's supposed to. And I look forward to many more years of longevity. Go to the light. Where'd it go? There it is. Oh, great. I did come across this. Something I noticed when I first bought the truck. There was gum in it. No. This cap was here. I'm guessing... You shouldn't stick your fingers in holes. I'm guessing that it was probably for a different package, a different trim package, and it was probably a power outlet. Kind of like those. Kind of like the cigarette lighter plugs. I'm guessing that's what it's for. So if you pay a couple of grand more, they probably put in a power outlet in your armrest. But that's what I'm doing. It's your standard size, about 1.1/8 hole. I went to PowerWorks website, POWERWERX or something like that. And they have all sorts of these plugs to go in here. So I grabbed one that is a dual USB power outlet. I don't need a cigarette lighter plug in here. I went with the 2 USB. Everything we do now is USB. So that's what's going in there. I have a cell phone that I use for work, and whatever else I can come up with, that's what's going to go in there. Anyway, so that's that. Other additions, I've changed out like the overhead light to LED. I did the cab clearance lights LED. I haven't done tail lights. Oh, I did the bed lights, like the bed. Oh boy, the clear lights that shine down in the bed. I've replaced those with some really bright LEDs. Those work fantastic. I did have to put a resistor across them because there must be some residual voltage, and the LED picks up on it, so the LEDs would stay dimly lit at all times. Again, just like me. But so anyways, I put a resistor across the load there, and it got rid of that. It got rid of that dimly lit LED. But I haven't upgraded the headlights at all. I would love to get, either HID or, projector beam style headlights for this. This is the model that only has one bulb per side instead of the 2 on each side, which is fine. I kind of like those projector lights with the little, like the halo around the light. I like those anyways. So I could deal with that, and I wouldn't mind LEDing everything else on the truck, but it's not exactly cheap. If you want the good ones, not exactly cheap, and again, it's not a huge concern. There's certainly no strain on the alternator in this truck. I think it's like a 160 amp alternator. I can't even. I've jump started other diesel trucks with it, and I've never heard any back talk. It doesn't sass me. Anyways, I think that's about all I got. Love the truck. Hope it's around for a lot longer. See ya. This is the output. Yeah, this is the output side of the DPF. It's pretty clean here. There's one of the sensors. I don't know if that's temperature sensor. Yeah, it's definitely not an oxygen sensor. It's a temperature sensor. You see, it's starting to corrode just by being taken apart. But pretty clean on this side. Let's go take a look at the other side. This side is pretty dirty. That's an oxygen sensor. I think that's another temperature sensor. But it won't focus too well. It's not bad, but I know I recently went through a regen just before I took it off. So it does collect stuff. It's just, I'm not against the process of what it does. I'm against of how it cleans itself. Me burning more fuel and ruining oil in my engine doesn't seem like a good way of not polluting. What's this? I forget what this one was called. The DOC? I gotta look up what the DOC was. But it's another honeycomb looking creature. You can kind of see through it. You can see that little blue light in the back. That's the, I don't know. Anyways, I forget what this one does, but it's also another honeycomb filter. Great for creating back pressure. And this was the catalytic converter, I believe. Look, and yet another honeycomb. And not too bad. This is the downpipe. That's where the turbo would connect up, and then downstream, and then the turbo fed into this. Come on, work with me here. There we go. Turbo came in here, so the downpipe comes in this way, and then exited, and then this fed into here, and then out that end. So these are all the sensors. I think I'm going to wait to find out what's going on with this class action lawsuit with Fiat Chrysler over all of this junk before I either sell it or scrap it. I'd like to sell it. I'm sure there's somebody else out there that would love to have one of these, so we'll see if we can accommodate. Anyways, those are the filters.